The bell rang for lunch, echoing down the long, crowded hallway of Silver Creek High. Students poured out of classrooms like a wave, laughing, chatting, pulling out phones and food trays. In the middle of all that chaos, a quiet girl named Alina Ward walked slowly, holding her lunchbox close to her chest as if it were a shield. She was new, barely 2 weeks into this school, and already she had learned that silence was safer than attention. Her brown eyes rarely looked up from the floor, her hair was always tucked neatly behind her ears, and her uniform, crisp, clean, perfectly pressed, was her armor. She thought if she stayed small, invisible, maybe they'd leave her alone. But bullies never leave the quiet ones alone. At a table near the center of the cafeteria sat Lex, Troy, and Amber, the trio who ruled the lunchroom like it was their kingdom. Lex, tall and arrogant, had that confident smirk that screamed trouble. Troy was the muscle, built like a football player with too much pride and too little empathy. Amber, the self-appointed queen, thrived on cruelty and gossip, her laughter always the loudest when someone else was suffering. And when Alina walked past their table that day, clutching her lunch, trying to find a quiet corner, Amber's eyes caught her like a hawk spotting prey. "Well, if it isn't the little church mouse," Amber said loudly enough for half the room to hear. "Hey, mouse! You gonna eat in the janitor's closet again?" Laughter erupted. Elena froze mid-step, the heat rising in her face. She didn't respond. She knew from experience that words only fed them. But Lex wasn't done. He grabbed a fry from his tray and flicked it at her. It hit her sleeve, leaving a tiny smear of ketchup on her white uniform. "Oops," he said mockingly. "Guess it's not that clean anymore." Troy stood up then, towering over the table. "Come on, let her sit with us," he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "We should get to know the new girl." Ilana shook her head quickly. "No, thank you," she murmured. Amber stood up too, circling around her like a predator. "Oh, come on. Don't be rude," she said sweetly, fake sympathy dripping from her voice. "You might even have fun. Sit down." When Alina didn't move, Amber's smile dropped. She reached out, grabbed Alina's arm, and pulled her closer. Alina gasped softly. A few students nearby looked up, but none intervened. That was the thing about high school. Everyone saw, but no one stepped in. Amber tugged at the collar of Alina's uniform shirt, pretending to adjust it, but her tone was sharp. "You think you're too good for us? Is that it?" I said no. Alina whispered, trying to pull away. Lex smirked and stood behind her. "Don't make it harder than it has to be, mouse." In one swift motion, Amber yanked hard on Alina's shirt. The sound of tearing fabric cut through the cafeteria like a knife. The laughter that followed was deafening. Gasps, whispers, camera phones rising. The humiliation was complete. Alina stumbled back, clutching the torn edge of her uniform against her chest, her face burning with tears she refused to let fall. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Everything blurred. The noise, the faces, the laughter. She could hear someone say, "Get that on video!" Another voice, "Damn, she's crying!" But she wasn't. Not yet. She just stood there, frozen, trembling. Amber smiled proudly, brushing her hair off her shoulder. "Next time, learn to respect your seniors." Something in Alina snapped. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even hatred. It was something deeper. A calm that came from years of training she had promised herself she'd never use again. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, soft but firm. "Only defend yourself when there's no other choice. And when you do, make sure they never forget why they shouldn't have pushed you." Elena slowly lowered her torn uniform, standing straight for the first time since she came to this school. Her voice was quiet but steady. "You shouldn't have done that." Lex laughed. "Oh? What's the mouse gonna do? Squeak at us?" The cafeteria went quieter than usual. Something about her tone had shifted. Even the bullies noticed. She took one step forward. Troy snorted and moved closer, towering over her. "Back off, little girl," he said, trying to sound intimidating. But Alina didn't back off. She looked him in the eye, calm, unblinking, and before he could blink, she moved. Her knee came up in a blur, striking him squarely in the ribs with the precision of someone who had been trained for years. The crack was audible. Troy's breath left his lungs in a strangled gasp as he fell to the floor, clutching his side in shock. The cafeteria erupted. Chairs scraped, trays fell, phones went up. Lex cursed and lunged toward her, swinging wildly. She sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. His body followed his arm, and with a sharp pivot, she used his own weight to send him crashing into the lunch table. Food flew, trays scattered, and Lex groaned in pain, completely disoriented. Amber froze. The smirk was gone, replaced by disbelief. "What the hell are you?" Before she could finish, Elena turned toward her. Her voice was low, calm, dangerous. "Stay away from me." Amber stumbled back, knocking over a chair. Her hands trembled as she raised them. "Oh, okay. Okay. Just chill." Elena didn't move closer. She just stared until Amber turned and ran out of the cafeteria. Silence filled the room, broken only by Troy's groans and the hum of the vending machine in the corner. Every student there stared at her. The shy, quiet new girl who had just destroyed two of the most feared bullies in school in under 30 seconds. Elena took a deep breath, adjusted the torn edge of her uniform, and looked around the room. "Anyone else want to make fun of me?" No one said a word. She turned, picked up her lunchbox from the floor, and walked calmly out of the cafeteria. The doors swung shut behind her with a soft thud, and the stunned silence that followed felt heavier than any scream. As she walked down the empty hall, her heart still pounded, not from fear, but from adrenaline. She found the girls' restroom and stepped inside, facing the mirror. The torn shirt exposed part of her shoulder, the bruise forming where Amber had grabbed her. Her reflection looked like someone else, not the quiet girl who hid behind her books, but the one who remembered what her father had taught her after years of being bullied as a child: never start a fight. But if they force you, make sure it ends there. With tears finally rolled down her cheeks, not from pain but from release. She wasn't weak anymore. She wasn't prey. When she walked out, a small crowd had gathered in the hallway. Whispers followed her. "She broke his ribs. She's a fighter. She's not shy anymore." But Elena didn't care about the rumors. She knew tomorrow would be worse. Teachers, questions, maybe even suspension. Still, she also knew something had changed forever. She'd drawn a line, and everyone had seen it. That night she sat in her room, staring at her phone. A message notification popped up from an unknown number. It was Lex. "Lex, you think you're tough? This isn't over." She stared at the screen, then locked her phone. Her calm expression hid a storm behind it. Because if they came back, if they tried again, she was ready. This time, she wouldn't just defend herself. She'd teach them what it really meant to mess with someone who refused to be broken.